Dr. Jiho Park stood at the observation window of the research station and watched the twin suns of Kepler 442b sink behind the massive trees. The forest stretched as far as he could see in every direction. Purple and green leaves swayed in the evening breeze. Strange bird-like creatures flew between the branches, making soft chirping sounds. 3 months ago, this alien world had seemed like paradise. The air was clean and breathable. The gravity felt almost like Earth. Rivers of fresh water flowed down from distant mountains. Plants grew everywhere in colors that did not exist back home. The first month had been pure excitement for his small research team. Jiho turned away from the window as footsteps approached. Dr. Mina Lee walked into the main lab carrying a sample container. Her dark hair was tied back, and dirt stained her field clothes. She had spent the entire day collecting plant specimens in the eastern forest section. "Find anything interesting today?" Jiho asked her. Mina placed the container on the analysis table. 3 new flowering species. The root systems are incredible. Some of these plants connect underground for hundreds of meters. They seem to share nutrients across the entire forest floor. Jiho nodded. The plant life on this world amazed him every day. As the team leader, he felt proud of their discoveries. Their mission was to catalog the biology of Kepler 442b before the first colony ships arrived in 2 years. Everything had been going perfectly until the sounds started. Taehyun Kim entered the lab from the communications room. The young geologist looked tired. Dark circles showed under his eyes. He had been working long hours studying rock samples and mapping underground formations. "Any word from the orbital station?" Jiho asked him. "Daily check-in completed." "Supply. Drop is scheduled for next week," Taehyun replied. He sat down heavily in a chair. "Dr. Park, we need to talk about those sounds again." Jiho felt his stomach tighten. The sounds had become their biggest concern. For 2 weeks now, strange calls had been echoing through the forest after dark. Deep, rumbling voices that seemed to come from large creatures. The sounds were unlike anything in their databases of known alien wildlife. "What did the computer analysis show?" Jiho asked. Taehyun pulled up data on his tablet. "The frequency patterns are complex, multiple voices calling back and forth across distances of several kilometers. The acoustic signatures suggest the sources are very large, maybe 3 to 4 meters tall based on vocal cord estimates." Mina looked up from her plant samples. "Large predators?" "That is what worries me," Jiho said. "We have cataloged dozens of herbivore species, small plant eaters, gentle creatures that run away when they see us. But we have not found any predators yet. That does not make ecological sense. Every stable ecosystem needed predators to control herbivore populations. The absence of any carnivorous species had puzzled the team from the beginning. Now these mysterious night sounds suggested that large predators did exist. They were just very good at staying hidden. Yuna Choi entered the lab carrying dinner trays. The communications specialist had been monitoring radio frequencies and analyzing the strange sounds. She was the youngest member of their team, but also the most skilled with technical equipment. "I have been thinking about the vocal patterns," she said as she handed out the food. "The sounds are not random. There are clear response patterns. One voice calls out and others answer from different locations. It resembles a conversation." "Animals can have complex communication," Mina said. "Wolves howl to coordinate pack hunting." "Yes, but these patterns are more sophisticated than any animal calls I have studied," Yuna replied. "The mathematical analysis shows linguistic structures. Grammar-like rules. It might be a language." Jiho felt a chill run down his spine. Intelligent predators would be far more dangerous than simple animals. If creatures on this world could think and plan, the research team might be in serious trouble. "Have you been able to triangulate their locations?" he asked Yuna. She nodded and activated the wall display. A map of the forest appeared with red dots marking sound sources. They move in coordinated patterns, always staying at least 2 kilometers from our base, but each night they get slightly closer. The red dots formed a rough circle around the research station. The pattern looked deliberate, like a slow, careful approach by thinking creatures. They are studying us, Taehyun said quietly, just like we are studying this world. That is speculation, Jiho replied, but his voice lacked confidence. The evidence was becoming hard to ignore. After dinner, the team reviewed their security protocols. The research station had basic defenses designed for severe weather and small animals. Force field barriers around the perimeter, emergency lockdown procedures, communication beacons to call for help, but nothing that could stop large, intelligent predators if they decided to attack. We should request evacuation, Mina suggested. If these creatures are dangerous, we are not equipped to handle them. The next supply ship is not scheduled for 6 months, Jiho reminded her. Emergency evacuation would cost millions and end our research mission. The corporate sponsors would not be happy. Better than ending up as alien food, Taehyun muttered. As night fell, they sealed the station and activated all sensors. The team took turns monitoring the detection equipment. Jiho took the first watch while the others tried to sleep. At midnight, the sounds began. Deep, resonant calls echoed through the forest. Yuna was right about the response patterns. One voice would boom out across the darkness. Seconds later, answers came from multiple directions. The conversations continued for hours. Jiho watched the thermal sensors show large heat signatures, moving through the trees. Always just at the edge of detection range, the creatures seemed to know exactly how far the sensors could reach. They stayed in the blind spots with uncanny precision. Around 3 in the morning, something changed. The sounds moved closer to the station than ever before. The thermal readings showed at least 6 large forms circling the perimeter. They stopped just outside the force field barrier. For 10 minutes, silence filled the air. Jiho held his breath and watched the sensor displays. Then a single, long call rang out. Not from the forest, but from directly above the station. One of the creatures had climbed onto their roof. The call was different from the others. Softer, more complex. It lasted. Nearly 30 seconds with multiple tonal shifts. When it ended, the other creatures responded immediately. Their answers came from all around the station now. Jiho activated the emergency alarm and woke the team. They gathered in the main lab, staring at sensor readings that showed heat signatures surrounding their base. The creatures had moved into positions that covered every exit. "They have us trapped," Yuna whispered. "Not trapped," Jiho corrected. "Contained. There is a difference." The sounds continued until dawn. As the first sunlight touched the forest, the thermal signatures faded away. The creatures had vanished as silently as they had appeared. When morning came, the team found evidence of their visitors. Large, 3-toed footprints in the soft soil around the station. Tool marks on the outer walls where something had tested the strength of their barriers. Most disturbing of all, small objects had been left near the main entrance. Carved, stones arranged in careful patterns. Gifts, Mina said, studying the arrangements. Or warnings. Jiho picked up one of the stones. The carving was intricate and clearly made by intelligent hands. Whatever lived in this forest was far more than simple predators. They were dealing with an alien civilization. The carved stones sat on the laboratory table like a puzzle waiting to be solved. Dr. Jiho Park turned one of them over in his hands for the 100th time that morning. The smooth surface felt warm to the touch. Strange symbols covered every inch of the dark rock. "Any progress on translation?" he asked Yuna Choi. The communications specialist looked up from her computer screens. Her eyes were red from hours of work. "I have identified 37 different symbols. They repeat in patterns that suggest meaning. But without a reference point, it could take months to decode." Dr. Mina Lee entered the lab carrying her field. Equipment. I am ready for the morning collection run. The Southern Valley has species we have not cataloged yet. No solo trips, Jiho said firmly. After last night, we work in pairs minimum. Taehyun Kim looked up from his geological survey maps. I need to check the mineral deposits near the eastern ridge. The orbital scans showed unusual metal concentrations there. It will not take long. Take Mina with you, Jiho ordered. I have my own research to complete, Mina protested. The plant specimens in the Southern Valley are time-sensitive. If we wait, the flowering cycle will be over. Jiho felt the weight of leadership pressing on him. His team had important work to do. They could not hide in the research station forever, but the creatures in the forest clearly saw them as something worth investigating, maybe even as threats. Fine, he decided. Mina goes south with Yuna. Taehyun and I will check the eastern ridge together. Everyone stays in radio contact. Any sign of those creatures and we return to base immediately. The team prepared their equipment and weapons. Each person carried a stun rifle designed for large animals. The weapons had never been tested against unknown alien species, but they were better than nothing. Mina and Yuna left first, heading toward the valley where colorful flowers bloomed in the morning sunlight. Jiho watched them disappear into the forest before turning to Taehyun. Ready for a hike? He asked. The young geologist shouldered his heavy equipment pack. The sooner we get there, the sooner we can come back. They walked east through dense forest for 2 hours. The trees grew, larger as they moved away from the research station. Some trunks were so wide that 10 people holding hands could not reach around them. Vines hung from branches high above their heads. Small animals scattered at their approach. The forest seemed peaceful. Birds sang in the canopy. Insects buzzed among the flowers. A gentle breeze carried the scent of growing things. It was hard to believe that dangerous creatures lived in such a beautiful place. There, Taehyun pointed ahead. The ridge should be just past that stand of blue trees. They climbed a steep slope covered with loose rocks. Taehyun stopped every few meters to take readings with his geological scanner. The device beeped steadily as it detected metal deposits underground. Interesting, Taehyun muttered. These readings are not natural. The metal distribution is too regular. It looks almost artificial. Like what? Jiho asked. Like buried structures. Buildings, maybe. Or machines. They reached the top of the ridge and looked down into a small valley. The forest floor was different here. Instead of the usual purple and green plants, everything was a pale yellow color. The trees looked sick. Their leaves hung limp and lifeless. Some kind of blight, Jiho suggested. Taehyun checked his scanner again. High radiation levels, not dangerous to us in short exposure, but enough to affect plant growth. Something radioactive is buried down there. Ancient technology, Jiho wondered. A crashed ship, maybe. They were so focused on the strange valley that neither man noticed the silence that had fallen over the forest. The bird songs had stopped. The insect buzzing was gone. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Taehyun took another step toward the valley edge. A branch snapped behind them. Both men spun around. The forest looked empty. Shadows moved between the trees, but that could be normal animal movement. Jiho raised his hand and spoke into his radio. Base station, this is Team Alpha. We are at the eastern ridge. Everything looks normal, but something feels wrong. Static answered him. No voice from the research station. Yuna, Mina, do you copy? He tried again. More static. The radio was working, but no one was answering. We should go back, Taehyun said quietly. A deep sound echoed through the valley below them. Not the nighttime calls they had heard before. This was different. Closer, more urgent. Other voices answered from the forest around them. The creatures had found them in daylight. Run! Jiho shouted. They turned and crashed through the underbrush. Tree branches tore at their clothes. Roots tried to trip them with every step. Behind them, the sounds grew louder and closer. Jiho risked a glance backward. Dark shapes moved between the trees with impossible speed. They ran on two legs, like humans, but were much larger. Long arms swung at their sides. Their movements were smooth and coordinated. "This way," Taehyun called out. He had found a game trail that led downhill toward the research station. They ran for 20 minutes without stopping. The sounds followed them but never got closer. It was as if the creatures were herding them rather than hunting them, keeping them moving in a specific direction. The research station came into view through the trees. Jiho felt relief flood through him. They were almost safe. A few more minutes and they would be behind the force field barriers. That was when Taehyun stumbled and fell. The young geologist cried out in pain. His ankle was twisted at an unnatural angle. "I cannot run anymore," he gasped. The sounds from the forest had stopped. Complete silence surrounded them. Jiho helped Taehyun to his feet and looked back the way they had come. Massive shapes stood at the edge of the tree line. At least 6 of them, maybe more. They were even larger than the thermal sensors had suggested. 3.5 meters tall with broad shoulders and long arms. Dark fur covered their bodies. Their faces were hidden in shadow. "Do not move," Jiho whispered. "Maybe they will lose interest." One of the creatures stepped forward into the sunlight. Its face was not human, but showed clear intelligence. Large eyes studied the two men with obvious curiosity. It carried what looked like a spear made from metal and wood. The creature made a soft sound, not threatening, almost gentle. The others moved closer in response. Jiho activated his emergency beacon. Help would come eventually, but the nearest ship was days away. He raised his stun rifle, knowing it was probably useless against creatures. "This size!" The lead creature tilted its head and made another sound. This time, other voices answered from different directions. "More of them were coming." "Dr. Park," Taehyun said weakly, "I think they are surrounding us." The creatures moved with military precision. They took positions that blocked every escape route back to the research station. But they made no aggressive moves. They simply watched and waited. "What do they want?" Taehyun asked. The lead creature took another step forward. It raised one long arm and pointed at Taehyun. Then it pointed at itself. The meaning was clear. "They want to trade," Jiho realized with horror. "You, for something." More sounds echoed from the forest. The creatures were having a conversation. Their voices rose and fell like people arguing about a difficult decision. Finally, the lead creature made a sharp barking sound. The others responded immediately. 2 of them moved toward the injured geologist. "Stay back," Jiho shouted. He aimed his rifle at the approaching figures. The creatures stopped, but did not retreat. The leader made another sound. This one was definitely a command. Suddenly, something heavy struck Jiho from behind. He had been so focused on the creatures in front that he missed the ones that had circled around. Darkness closed over his vision as he fell. The last thing he remembered was seeing Taehyun being lifted gently by massive arms and carried into the forest. The creatures were taking him alive. When Jiho woke up, he was alone at the edge of the clearing. His rifle lay broken beside him. The research station was only 100 meters away. The creatures had left him there deliberately. They could have killed him easily. Instead, they had chosen to take only one member of his team. It was a message, Jiho realized, a demonstration of their power and their restraint. The creatures in the forest were not mindless predators. They were something far more dangerous. They could think, plan, and make choices about human lives, and they had one of his people. Dr. Jiho Park limped back to the research station with his head pounding. Blood trickled from a cut above his left eye. The force field barrier hummed as he passed through it, but the familiar sound brought no comfort. Taehyun was gone. Mina Lee and Yuna Choi rushed out to meet him. Both women looked frightened. They had heard the emergency beacon and returned from their own research trip to find the base empty. "Where is Taehyun?" Mina asked as she helped Jiho into the medical bay. "They took him," Jiho said simply. He sat down heavily while Mina cleaned. His wounds. "The creatures. They are intelligent. They planned it." Yuna activated the emergency communication system. "I will call for evacuation. A rescue ship can be here in 4 days." "No," Jiho said firmly. "Not yet. They could have killed me easily, but they chose not to. They could have taken both of us, but they only wanted one. This was not an attack. It was communication." "Communication?" Mina stared at him. "They kidnapped our friend." "They borrowed him," Jiho corrected. "There is a difference. I think they are trying to tell us something." That night, the sounds returned stronger than ever. The creatures called to each other across the forest with their deep voices, but now Jiho listened with different ears. These were not the howls of predators. They were conversations. Yuna worked through the night analyzing every recording they had made. Her computers ran translation programs and pattern recognition software. By morning, she had made an incredible discovery. "Dr. Park, you need to see this," she called out. Jiho and Mina gathered around Yuna's workstation. The screens showed wave patterns and mathematical formulas that hurt to look at. "The sounds have grammar," Yuna explained. "Real linguistic structure. Subject, verb, object patterns, tense markers, even emotional indicators. This is not animal communication. This is language." "How complex?" Jiho asked. "More complex than Korean, maybe more complex than any human language. They use sound frequencies we cannot even hear, subsonic vibrations that carry meaning below our hearing range." Mina leaned forward to study the data. "What are they saying?" "I do not know yet, but I have identified recurring patterns, word sounds that repeat in similar contexts. One pattern appears whenever they are discussing us. Another seems to indicate questions or uncertainty." Jiho felt excitement building despite his worry for Taehyun. "Keep working on it. If we can understand them, maybe we can negotiate for his return." Over the next 2 days, Yuna made rapid progress. The alien language followed logical rules once she understood the basic structure. More importantly, she discovered that the creatures had been listening to the humans' radio communications and learning. "They know Korean," she announced on the second evening. "Not fluently, but they understand basic concepts. Listen to this recording from last night." She played an audio file. Deep alien voices spoke in their complex language, but mixed in with the strange sounds were Korean words, distorted and mispronounced, but recognizable. They said human and friend and safe, Yuna translated. "I think they are talking about Taehyun. He is alive then." Jiho felt relief. Wash over him. More than alive. Listen to this part. Yuna played another section. "They are asking questions about us. Why here? And what want? And dangerous or peaceful? They are trying to figure out our intentions." That night, Jiho made a decision that would change everything. He activated the external communication system and spoke into the forest. "We know you can hear us," he said in simple Korean. "We know you understand our language. We want our friend back. We want to talk." Silence answered him. The forest held its breath. Then, from the darkness beyond the force field, came a reply. A single voice speaking broken but understandable Korean. "We hear you, small ones. Your friend is safe. He learns about us. We learn about him." Jiho's heart raced. First contact. Real communication with an alien intelligence. "Why did you take him?" "To understand. You come to our world. You take pieces of our world. We must know if you are like the others." "What others?" A long pause. When the voice returned, it carried sadness. "Others who came before, long ago. They took much and gave nothing. They hurt the world. They hurt us. We cannot let this happen again." Mina grabbed Jiho's arm. Ask about Tae-hyun. Make sure he is okay. Our friend, is he hurt? No hurt. He is curious. He asks many questions. He shows us pictures of your homeworld. He is not afraid of us now. Jiho could hardly believe it. Tae-hyun was actually communicating with the aliens. Will you bring him back? Soon. First, we must decide about you. Some of us say humans are dangerous like the others. Some say you are different. We watch. We listen. We learn. We are researchers. We study life. We do not want to hurt anything. Words are easy. Actions show truth. We will see. The voice faded into silence. No matter how much Jiho called out, there was no more response that night. The next morning brought a surprise. A small package sat outside the force field barrier. Inside was Tae-hyun's personal tablet and a collection of crude drawings on bark paper. The drawings showed stick figures of humans and larger figures representing the aliens. In one drawing, both groups sat around what looked like a fire. In another, they worked together, building something. The final drawing showed spaceships, leaving the planet while both humans and aliens waved goodbye. Tae-hyun drew these, Mina said. He is trying to show them that we can be friends. Yuna was studying the tablet. He has been documenting everything. Look at these photos. The screen showed images that took their breath away. Tae-hyun had photographed the alien village. Sophisticated tree houses connected by bridges high in the forest canopy. Gardens where alien children played with strange toys. Adults working with tools that looked both primitive and advanced. They are not savages, Jiho whispered. They have a civilization. More photos showed the aliens' faces clearly for the first time. They looked almost human in some ways. 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth. But their features were broader, more angular. Their skin was covered in fine fur that changed color in different light. Their eyes were much larger than human eyes and seemed to glow with inner light. The final photos showed Tae-hyun sitting with a group of alien children. He was teaching them to write Korean letters in the dirt. They were showing him how to weave grass into rope, both species learning from each other. He is safe, Mina said with relief. More than safe. He is making friends. That evening, the aliens returned Tae-hyun as promised. He walked out of the forest with 2 alien escorts who stayed at the edge of the clearing. He looked tired but excited. You will not believe what I have learned, he said as his teammates embraced him. They are incredible. Their technology, their society, their history. We have so much to learn from each other. Are you hurt? Jiho asked. Not at all. They took better care of me than our own medical bay could. And Dr. Park. They want to meet with all of us tomorrow. Officially. They have decided we are not like the others who came before. What others? Mina asked. Tae-hyun's expression grew serious. That is a long story, and not a happy one, but it explains why they were so careful with us. They have been hurt before by visitors from space. As night fell, the alien sounds resumed in the forest. But now they sounded different to human ears. Not threatening calls from predators, but discussions among neighbors. Planning for tomorrow's historic meeting between 2 intelligent species who were just beginning to understand each other. The morning sun painted the forest in shades of gold and green as Dr. Jiho Park prepared for the most important meeting of his life. He had barely slept, his mind racing with questions about what the aliens wanted to discuss. Tae-hyun Kim sat at the main table, looking more rested than anyone expected after his 3 days with the aliens. He was sketching diagrams of the alien village from memory while explaining what he had learned. Their real name for themselves translates to something like forest guardians or world keepers, Tae-hyun said. But the individual who spent the most time with me called his people the Vorthak. He said it was easier for human tongues to pronounce. What are they like as individuals? Mina Lee asked as she prepared recording equipment. Curious, Gentle, very careful about everything they do. They think before they act. The one who befriended me is younger than the others. His name sounds like kale when he says it slowly. Yuna Choi looked up from her translation computers. Did he explain why they took you? They needed to know if humans were dangerous. In their recent history, contact with space-traveling species has not gone well. They have learned to be very cautious. What happened to them? Jiho asked. Taehyun's expression grew dark. I will let them explain that. It is their story to tell. But it explains why they live in trees instead of cities, why they watch strangers so carefully. At exactly noon, movement appeared at the edge of the forest. A single figure emerged from between the trees. It was smaller than the massive creatures they had glimpsed before, but still much larger than a human. Perhaps 2.5 meters tall with long arms and a graceful way of moving. The alien walked slowly toward the research station with empty hands visible. It stopped just outside the force field barrier and spoke in careful, accented Korean. Greetings, researchers from Earth. I am the one your friend calls Kyle. May I enter your protected area? Jiho felt his heart pounding. This was first contact, the moment that would be remembered in history books. He activated the barrier controls and created an opening. Please, enter. You are welcome here. Kyle stepped through the barrier and looked around with obvious curiosity. Up close, the alien was even more impressive. His fur was a deep brown color that shifted to golden highlights in the sunlight. His large eyes were intelligent and kind. He wore simple clothes made from woven plant fibers and carried a staff carved with intricate symbols. Your home is smaller than I expected, Kyle said with what might have been amusement. Taehyun showed us pictures of human cities, buildings that reach toward the sky. Do you not miss such places? This is temporary, Jiho explained. We are here to study your world before more humans arrive. Kyle's expression grew serious. Yes, that is what we must discuss. They gathered in the main lab. Kyle had to duck his head to avoid hitting the ceiling. He examined their equipment with interest, but did not touch anything without permission. Your friend Taehyun is a good teacher, Kyle began. He explained your purpose here. You study living things to understand them. You catalog and preserve knowledge. This is honorable work. Thank you, Jiho replied. We have great respect for your world and its inhabitants. But you are not the only humans who will come here. Taehyun spoke of colony ships, thousands of settlers who will build cities and change the land. This concerns us greatly. Mina leaned forward. We can work together. Humans and Vorthak sharing the planet. There is room for everyone. Kyle was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried deep sadness. Other species have made such promises to us before. They did not keep their words. Tell us what happened, Jiho said gently. Kale stood and walked to the observation window. He looked out at the forest that his people called home. Long ago, the Vorthak were not forest dwellers. We built great cities among the stars. We traveled between worlds in ships that could cross the galaxy in days. We thought we were masters of the universe. He paused, gathering his thoughts. Then came the Devourers, a species that consumed everything in their path. Worlds, civilizations, entire solar systems. They turned living planets into empty rocks. They enslaved survivors to work in their factories. What happened to your people? Yuna asked quietly. We fought. The war lasted generations. We built weapons that could shatter planets. We created machines that could think and fight without rest. We became monsters to fight monsters. Kale turned back to face them. His large eyes reflected ancient pain. In the end, we won. But victory cost us everything. Our homeworld was destroyed. Our colonies were burned. Of billions of Vorthak, only a few thousand survived. So you came here, Taehyun said. The survivors, scattered across the galaxy. Some went to one world, some to another. My ancestors found this place. They decided to live simply. No more cities, no more weapons, no more contact with other species. They wanted peace. But you contacted us, Jiho pointed out, because we learned that isolation is not enough. Other species still find us. Some come as friends, some as conquerors. We have learned to watch and judge which kind each visitor might be. Kyle sat down again, his staff resting across his knees. 3 times in recent generations, space travelers have come to this world. Twice, they seemed peaceful at first. They made promises of friendship and cooperation. But when they learned what lies beneath our forests, friendship turned to greed. What lies beneath? Mina asked. The ruins of our ancestors' technology, weapons that could end civilizations, knowledge that could create or destroy worlds. We buried it all when we chose the simple life, but other species want to dig it up. They want to use our ancestors' power for their own purposes. The implications hit Jiho like a physical blow. That is why you were so careful with us. You thought we might try to take your technology. Every species claims they will use such power responsibly. The results are always the same. War, destruction, death. We cannot allow it to happen again. Yuna looked up from her notes. What happened to the other visitors? The ones who turned to greed? We made sure they could not return or report what they found here. It was necessary for the safety of the galaxy. The humans exchanged glances. The gentle alien sitting with them was describing acts that sounded like warfare or worse. You killed them, Mina said bluntly. We defended our world and the galaxy from weapons that should never be used again. Yes, some died. We take no pleasure in it, but we will do whatever is necessary to keep our ancestors' mistakes buried. Kyle leaned forward, his eyes intense. Now you must decide what kind of species humanity will be. Will you respect our choice to live simply and keep dangerous knowledge buried, or will you try to take what does not belong to you? We are researchers, Jiho said. We seek knowledge, but not weapons. We want to learn from you, not exploit you. Words are easy. The others said similar things. What matters is what you do when you face temptation. Kale reached into his clothing and pulled out a small device that hummed with hidden energy. This is a communicator that works across interstellar distances. With it, I could call for help from other Vorthak settlements. Within days, ships would arrive carrying weapons from our ancestors' war. We could destroy your colony ships before they reach this world. The humans stared at the alien device. All their assumptions about primitive forest dwellers crumbled in an instant. But, Kale continued, violence should be the last choice, not the first. Taehyun has shown us that some humans can be trusted. He shared knowledge freely and asked for nothing in return. He played with our children and learned our songs. He showed us that friendship between species is possible. What do you want from us? Jiho asked. Truth. When your colony ships arrive, will you tell them about us? Will you reveal the location of our buried technology? Will you try to claim this world as human property only? The weight of the decision pressed down on all of them. The future of human expansion, alien contact, and galactic peace might depend on what happened in this small research station. We need time to think, Jiho said finally. Of course, this choice will affect both our species for generations to come. It should not be made quickly. Kale stood to leave. I will return tomorrow for your answer. Choose wisely. The fate of many worlds may depend on what you decide. As the alien walked back into the forest, the research team sat in stunned silence. They had come to catalog plants and animals. Instead, they had discovered a test that would determine humanity's worthiness to join a larger galactic community. That evening, Dr. Jiho Park could not eat. The weight of Kale's ultimatum pressed on his mind like a physical burden. Around the table, his team picked at their food while struggling with the same impossible choice. We have to tell the colony. Ships about the Vorthak, Mina Lee said finally. We cannot hide the existence of an intelligent species. That would be wrong. But if we report them, the corporations will want their technology, Yuna Choi replied. Earth governments will send military ships. Everything Kale fears will come true. Taehyun Kim pushed his plate away untouched. I lived with them for 3 days. I saw their children playing in the trees, their elders teaching stories, their artists carving beautiful sculptures. They do not deserve to have their peaceful world turned into a battlefield. None of this should be our decision alone, Jiho said. We are researchers, not diplomats, not kings who can decide the fate of species. But we are the ones who made contact, Mina pointed out. Like it or not, we are the bridge between humans and Vorthak now. They spent hours discussing options. Every choice seemed to lead to tragedy for someone. Report the aliens and risk war. Hide them and betray humanity's right to know. Try to find a middle path and satisfy no one. Near midnight, Yuna made a discovery that changed everything. She had been analyzing the geological data that Taehyun collected before his capture. Hidden in the rock samples were isotope signatures that told a story of unimaginable destruction. Look at this, she called the others to her workstation. These mineral compositions are impossible through natural processes. The only way to create these isotopes is through massive energy release. Nuclear weapons or something even more powerful. Taehyun studied the data with growing alarm. The dating shows this happened approximately 400 years ago. The entire eastern continent was bombarded with energy weapons. The war Kale mentioned, Jiho realized, the one that destroyed his people's civilization. It happened here, on this world. Mina examined soil samples under the microscope. That explains the dead zone we found, the area where plants grow poorly. It is not natural blight. It is radiation damage that has lasted for centuries. As if summoned by their discovery, sounds echoed from the forest. But these were not the usual alien conversations. These were songs, deep, mournful melodies that spoke of loss and remembrance. Memorial songs, Taehyun said quietly. They sing them every few days. Now I understand why. They are remembering the dead. The next morning, Kale returned with several companions. 3 elderly Vorthak walked beside him, their fur gray with age and their eyes holding the weight of witnessed tragedies. One carried a staff topped with crystals that gleamed with inner light. These are our historians, Kale explained, as the group approached the research station. They have lived through the changes. They remember when our people first came to this world. The eldest Vorthak stepped forward. His name sounded like Thane. When pronounced slowly, he spoke in accented but clear Korean. Young humans, we have watched your discussions from the forest. We know you struggle with the choice we have given you. Perhaps it is time you understood the full truth about this world and its history. Thane activated his crystal staff. Holographic images appeared in the air above it. The team gasped as they saw the planet as it once was. Gleaming cities stretched across continents. Spacecraft filled the skies. Advanced technology was everywhere. This was our home world, Thane explained. Not a colony, not a refuge. The birthplace of the Vorthak species. We lived here for millions of years before we learned to travel between stars. The images changed to show the war, massive ships battling in space above the planet, energy beams that turned mountains to glass, explosions that boiled away seas. When the Devourers came, we made our final stand here. Every weapon we had ever created, we used to defend our home. The battle lasted for months. In the end, we won. But the cost was everything we had built over millennia. New images showed the aftermath. A world burned and broken. Survivors emerging from underground shelters to find their civilization in ruins. The decision to bury their weapons and live simply in the forests that slowly grew back. We chose to forget our technology, Thane continued. To become primitive again. It seemed the only way to ensure such destruction would never happen again. But forgetting is not the same as destroying. The weapons still exist, buried deep beneath our forests. Jiho felt sick as he understood the implications. That is what the other visitors wanted. Not just any alien technology. The weapons that won the war against the Devourers. Planet killers, star destroyers. Weapons that could remake or unmake entire solar systems. In the wrong hands, they could threaten every living world in the galaxy. Mina stared at the holographic images of destruction. Why show us this? Why trust us with such dangerous knowledge? Kale spoke up. Because Tae-hyun convinced us that some humans can be trusted with difficult truths. Because hiding from the problem has not made it go away. Other species will keep coming. Eventually, one will succeed in finding what lies beneath our world. What do you want from us? Yuna asked. Thane deactivated the hologram and looked directly at each human in turn. Help us find a better solution. We cannot guard this world forever. Our population grows smaller each generation. Our watchers grow old. Someday we will be too few to defend what must be protected. You want us to help you hide your weapons, Jiho said. No, we want you to help us find a way to destroy them permanently, or to guard them properly, or to use them responsibly if threats like the Devourers ever return. We are too few and too frightened to make such decisions alone. The eldest historian stepped forward again. In our long study of galactic history, we have learned that every species faces a test, a moment when they must choose between wisdom and power, between cooperation and domination. Most fail this test and destroy themselves or others. What happens to the species that pass? Tae-hyun asked. They join the Council of Guardians, a hidden organization of species that have learned to use their power responsibly. They help guide younger civilizations through their own tests. They protect the galaxy from threats too large for any single world to handle. KL nodded. 3 species in this sector of the galaxy belong to the Council. The Vorthak are one. We have watched humanity for generations, waiting to see what kind of species you would become. Your arrival here is humanity's test. And if we fail, Mina asked, then we ensure that human expansion stops here, not out of cruelty but out of necessity. A species that would exploit our weapons is too dangerous to be allowed among the stars. The weight of cosmic responsibility settled on the small research team. They were not just representing themselves or even their research mission. They were representing all of humanity in a test that would determine their species' future among the stars. What exactly is the test? Jiho asked. Simple, Thane replied. When your colony ships arrive, what will you tell them? Will you reveal our existence and location? Will you report the presence of advanced technology? Will you help them claim this world for human expansion? Or will you find a different path? We need to discuss this privately, Jiho said. Of course, but know this, Kyle added. Other members of the council are watching. Ships wait at the edge of this solar system. Your choice will be observed and judged not just by us, but by civilizations far older and more powerful than either humans or Vorthak. As the aliens withdrew into the forest, the research team faced the most important decision in human history. The wrong choice could mean the end of human space exploration. The right choice could open doors to wonders beyond imagination. But first, they had to figure out what the right choice actually was. The emergency beacon blinked red on Dr. Jiho Park's communication panel. Colony ship Harmony would arrive in 18 hours. 50,000 human settlers expecting to find a pristine world ready for colonization. Instead, they would find their advance team faced with the most important decision in human history. We cannot keep debating this, Mina Lee said as she paced around the main lab. In a few hours, Captain Santos will be asking for our full report. We need to decide what we are going to tell him. Tae-hyun Kim sat at the table surrounded by alien artifacts and human data tablets. Every choice leads to problems. If we reveal the Vorthak, the colonial authority will want to exploit their technology. If we hide them, we betray our duty to humanity. Yuna Choi looked up from the communication console, where she had been preparing multiple versions of their final report. There might be a third option. What if we tell part of the truth? Explain, Jiho said. We report the existence of an intelligent species, but we classify the information at the highest security level. Only the colonial leadership learns about the Vorthak. Not the corporations, not the military. Just the people who need to know to make responsible decisions. And if those leaders decide to exploit the situation anyway, Mina asked. Then we have Kale's communicator, Taehyun said quietly. The one he showed us. We could warn the Vorthak before any military action begins. Jiho felt the weight of command pressing on his shoulders. Every choice required trusting people to make the right decisions. Trust the colonial authorities to respect alien rights. Trust the Vorthak to keep their promises of cooperation. Trust himself to choose correctly when the stakes were so high. A soft sound from outside interrupted his thoughts. Kale emerged from the forest carrying something in his arms. As he approached the research station, they could see it was a young Vorthak child. "My daughter Zira," Kale said as he reached the barrier. "She wanted to meet the humans her father has been talking about." The child was perhaps the equivalent of a human 6-year-old. Her fur was lighter than her father's, almost golden in the sunlight. Her large eyes were filled with curiosity rather than fear as she studied the strange creatures in their metal. "Shelter. She is beautiful," Mina said softly. Zira spoke in the Vorthak language, her voice high and musical. Kale translated. "She wants to know if human children like to climb trees. She hopes someday human and Vorthak children can play together." The innocent question hit harder than any threat or ultimatum could have. This was not about politics or technology or power. It was about the kind of future both species would share. "Tell her that human children love to climb trees," Jiho said. "And many of them would be honored to learn from young Vorthak, who are much better climbers," Kale translated, and Zira clapped her hands with delight. She ran to the barrier and pressed, her small palm against the energy field. Yuna walked over and placed her own hand on the other side. For a moment, human and alien child looked at each other through the shimmering barrier that separated their worlds. "The colony ship has families aboard," Taehyun said quietly. "Children who will grow up on this world. What kind of world do we want to leave them?" That evening, the research team made their final decision. They would tell the truth, but they would also take responsibility for the consequences. Jiho began recording their official report to the colonial authorities. "Colony Command, this is Research Station Alpha with our final survey report. We have discovered that Kepler 442b is inhabited by an intelligent species called the Vorthak. They are peaceful but technologically advanced. We recommend immediate diplomatic contact protocols." He paused the recording. That is the official version. Now for the real message. Jiho activated a secure channel that would reach Captain Santos privately. "Captain, this is Dr. Park. I need to meet with you alone before you speak with anyone else. What I am about to tell you will change everything about this mission." The next morning brought the sight they had been waiting for. Colony ship Harmony appeared as a bright star in the dawn sky, growing larger as it approached the planet. Behind it came 2 smaller vessels carrying supplies and equipment for the new settlement. Captain Maria Santos was exactly what Jiho had expected, a career military officer with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that missed nothing. She listened to their full report without interruption, occasionally asking technical questions about the Vorthak technology and capabilities. "Let me understand this correctly," she said finally. "We have discovered a species that possesses weapons capable of destroying entire planets. They have chosen to live primitively, but could defend themselves if necessary. And they are testing Humanity to determine if we are worthy of joining some kind of galactic community. That is correct, Jiho confirmed. And you believe we should work with them rather than trying to claim their technology for Earth's benefit. I believe we should prove that humans can be trusted with power, that we can choose cooperation over exploitation. Captain Santos was quiet for several minutes. When she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of command decisions. Dr. Park, I have seen what happens when advanced civilizations encounter primitive ones. Usually, the primitive ones disappear. Sometimes the advanced ones do. What are you saying? Mina asked. I am saying that the Vorthak are not primitive at all. They are highly advanced beings who have chosen to appear primitive for their own protection. That makes them either the most dangerous or the most valuable allies humanity has ever encountered. Kyle chose that moment to emerge from the forest. This time, he was not alone. A dozen adult Vorthak accompanied him, including the elder historians. They approached the landing site where Captain Santos had set up her temporary command post. Captain Santos, Kale said in careful English, we welcome you to our world. We hope your people and ours can find a path to peaceful coexistence. The captain studied the alien delegation with professional assessment. I have read Dr. Park's report about your history and capabilities. I have one question for you. If we agree to work together, how do we know you will not use your superior technology against us if we disagree about something? How do we know you will not try to take our technology by force if you believe you need it? Kyle replied. Trust must begin somewhere. Then let it begin with honesty, Santos said. I command 50,000 human settlers who need homes. You control a world that could support millions more. We both have something the other wants. How do we make this work? Elder Thane stepped forward. The same way every successful civilization has learned to work, through laws that apply to everyone, through councils where all voices are heard, through the understanding that no species survives alone in this galaxy. Over the following days, an agreement took shape. The human colony would be established in the southern continent, far from the Vorthak villages and burial sites. Joint teams would study the planet's ecosystem to ensure human activities did not damage the environment. Most importantly, a new council would be formed with representatives from both species to govern their shared world. The dangerous technology would remain buried, but its existence would no longer be a secret. Human scientists and Vorthak historians would work together to study it safely. If threats like the Devourers ever returned, both species would cooperate in defending their world. What about Earth? Yuna asked during one of the planning sessions. What do we tell them about all this? The truth, Captain Santos replied, that humanity has encountered its first intelligent alien species and chosen cooperation over conquest. That we have been invited to join a galactic community of responsible civilizations. That the age of human expansion through domination is over, and the age of human growth through cooperation has begun. Jiho stood at the observation window and watched human and Vorthak children playing together in the meadow outside the research station. Little Zero was teaching a group of human children how to weave grass into ropes, while they showed her how to skip stones across the nearby stream. Hard to believe we thought they were predators, Taehyun said as he joined Jiho at the window. We heard what we expected to hear, Jiho replied. The sounds of danger instead of the sounds of conversation. Fear made us deaf to what they were really saying. Mina approached with a data tablet showing the preliminary agreements between the two species. The Council of Guardians has sent their approval. Humanity's test has been passed. We are officially invited to join the galactic community. What does that mean exactly? Yuna asked. Access to knowledge from dozens of advanced civilizations. Protection from threats we cannot handle alone. And responsibility to help guide younger species through their own tests when they reach the stars. Captain Santos entered the lab carrying a communication device that hummed with alien technology. This just arrived from the Council. A gift to welcome humanity to the galactic community. It will allow us to communicate instantly with other member species across thousands of light years. And the dangerous weapons buried under the forest, Jiho asked, will remain buried until the galaxy faces a threat that requires them. But now, they will be guarded by both species together. Shared responsibility instead of hidden secrets. Kale appeared in the doorway, ducking his head to enter the human-sized room. The evening songs begin soon. Will you join us? Tonight we sing not of loss and remembrance, but of new friendships and shared tomorrows. As the sun set over Kepler 442b, humans and Vorthak gathered together in the forest clearing. The deep voices of the aliens blended with higher human voices in songs of hope and cooperation. The sounds that had once filled the humans with fear now filled them with wonder. Dr. Jiho Park looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere among those distant lights, other civilizations were watching and waiting. Some would be tested as humanity had been tested. Some would pass and join the community of guardians. Others would fail and face the consequences of their choices. But tonight, on a world where two species had chosen trust over fear, the future seemed bright with possibility. The sounds echoing through the forest were no longer the calls of predators, but the voices of friends learning to sing together. In his final log entry, Jiho wrote, "Mission status complete. Kepler 442b survey results, inhabited by intelligent species. Recommendation, full diplomatic and scientific cooperation. Note for future explorers. When you hear sounds in an alien forest, listen carefully. They might not be the voices of predators. They might be the voices of teachers waiting to welcome humanity home." The test was over. The real adventure was just beginning.